Not this big run day, from a few days before, where that would have been my biggest red day, but this absolutely beautiful setup, like right at VWAP, right over the breakout level, it came around, and that was my biggest trade ever, and it saved my red day. And I did appropriately size up on it because I said this is an A+ setup for me. This is what I'm looking for. So yeah, there's definitely a difference between taking big size to get green and taking big size on a good setup.
All right, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Steady Trade. We have a special guest this week, and it is my honor to introduce him. If you've seen the 30-day bootcamp I filmed with Tim Sykes, there is kind of a viral clip where I introduced the dumbest person I know, and that is Bryce. And we have Bryce Tuohey here, who is the Bryce from that bootcamp, my former roommate in college. And yeah, he's not actually the dumbest person I know. He's a goofy kid, and he was my roommate at the time I filmed it, so it was pretty funny. But it's a pleasure to have you, Bryce. Could you just, like, for the listeners who maybe don't know you on Twitter or who you are, or where you fit into the community, could you give us a quick rundown on what's going on in your life?
Yeah, for sure. Hi guys, I'm Bryce, aka the Bryce, aka the dumbest person Matt knows. Yeah, no, so I met Matt in college, and he kind of got me into trading. We were roommates for like 3 years. We started up our own podcast back in the day called Beyond the PDT. And that's kind of what got me, like, I guess, introduced to just traders that were, I guess, good traders. And, at the time I was really struggling, and those kind of connections helped me out a lot. I learned a lot from, I think we interviewed both Jack and Kyle. They were both super helpful. And so like in terms of my trading, I trade like generally listed stocks. I know Matt kind of trades a bit of everything long, and he's pretty good at it, but he's taught me how to trade like listed small caps. I'm a Sykes challenge student, and yeah, I think that's about it in terms of like a little introduction about me.
Yeah, where are you at? Like, how long ago did you start trading? Just so the listeners have an idea. And then in terms of profits, if you care to share, where are you at?
Yeah, no, okay. So I've been trading, what has it been? I think about 2.5 years now. I think I started like studying back in December 2018, started actually trading with real money that summer. So I guess like in my trading journey, I'm like 2.5 years in. Total profits, I've just passed $20,000, I'm pretty sure. Just a little over 20,000. I don't know the exact dollar amount, but most of that came from this year. I was losing. I was an unprofitable trader for the first 1.5 years.
Awesome, man. Yeah, congratulations, first of all. I'm very proud of you. Kicking ass. Did anything, before we get into maybe some charts and you can talk about some of your trades, was there like any aha moments or anything that you noticed changed from the beginning of 2020 when you weren't profitable to now you're at a point where you're up 20,000 in the green?
I think the biggest change, I don't think it was like a single aha moment. I think it was just that, I started taking trading a lot more seriously. I kind of made it my full-time focus. I mean, I was, for the entire beginning of the summer from May until end of August, I was up every morning at like 6, getting ready for the market, making my watch list. And then after the market closed, I journaled for normally about 2 hours a day, and just tried to go over everything I did right and wrong. And I think it was just a bunch of little aha moments that kept saying, all right, I'm like clearly missing this. It's like, history repeats itself. And I think that's the same way in your trading. Like when you make similar mistakes, you're going to keep making them until you find out what they are to fix them. And like, to me, it was just little bits of those every time that ended up, leading, I guess, to, I feel like I can consistently make money in the market. So yeah, I think that there's no one aha moment, just a bunch of little ones that added up.
Sweet. You boys got any questions before we jump on over?
I'll have some questions once we go through some charts and stuff. But yeah, I totally agree with what Matt said, or not Matt, Bryce said about the little moments. There's not just one. There's always multiple that compound themselves over and over again. 100% agree.
Yeah, I'll quiz him about some of his trades.
All right.
All right, Kyle.
All right, move it up.
Go.
Yeah, no, so this is VVPR. This is my biggest cumulative over all the trades I've made on it. My one single biggest trade too, but I've been, stalking this since it had that first multi-day run back in mid-August there. And I think on the third day of that run, I traded a small size and just kind of kept it on watch because I like to keep these, multi-day runners on watch, especially when they hold up above lows. And again, I feel like I haven't seen a ton of listed multi-day runners. So when I see one that shows potential, I keep it on watch for the next few coming days. And when it broke out over that $4-ish area, right over there, I didn't get to play this. And again, I just kept watched it consolidate higher and higher. And when it finally broke over that high on end of August there, I had a nice trade on it. And then again, I was kind of actually watching it for a short at this point. But it just kept holding up every day.
See what this breakout right here, the 550, 560 level.
Yeah, exactly. It was August, is that 28th?
Yeah, that's the 28th of the volume increase.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was the day I had my single biggest trade on it. I think I locked in around $1,500 on that consolidation in the 1 o'clock time frame right in there. I just kept watching it make higher lows. And again, this was a breakout on the daily chart. It held that previous, what was resistance turned into support. It was right at VWAP. I mean, there were just so many things lining up on it. So I took notable size, and unfortunately I missed the end of the day. It kind of started chopping around. I got out around that high a day test, which it's something I struggle with, but I like to lock in my profits. So that was my biggest single trade, and then move over to the day it ran to like almost $15. Again, I was expecting it to gap down after that breakout that I played, and I was expecting this to just kind of die off. I thought this would be like an overextended gap down kind of pattern, and it held up really well. It squeezed out at the end of the day. So this is what really put it on watch for me, is that when the stock like doesn't do something that it should, and again, I felt like that really should have broken down there. And so when it continued to hold up, I just kept watching it for some morning consolidation. And what day is that? The 4th, last Friday. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right out of the open, I saw a few minutes of consolidation and started in, I think at like 9:26 I started in at, and I was in all the size I wanted to be by like at the price like 9:31, and I rode that up into the 10s. Clearly missed out on some of the moves, or on some of the move there, but then as it kept dipping, making higher lows up in the 11 a.m. time frame, I just continued to recycle shares at that point. Didn't want to be oversized because, again, I feel like now this stock is kind of an exception, but midday kind of matters. Midday there's a lot of just sporadic movements and sometimes just slow and choppy. I was not expecting this to go to $15, give or take, by 1 o'clock. But overall, like, this is definitely one of the best trades I'd say I took. I've been struggling with patience lately, so the fact that I could trade this one with a plan, I was really happy with.
Awesome. So would you say your main setup is these multi-day kind of breakouts on multi-day runners?
Yeah.
That prove themselves?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not get into the dark side yet of shorting, only longs?
I would say about half of my total profit, and maybe not half, maybe about $8,000 has come from shorting, but I know I'm not doing it well. I know I'm doing it way too sloppy. More scalpy than it is anything. And that's something I'm really trying to learn, how to play actual patterns on it instead of just shorting breakdowns and covering lower, because in a market where you're not getting a ton of crazy runners, you're also not getting a ton of, just volatility overall. So I'm trying to cut that out until I really get better patterns and I can understand how to add better and scale in.
Right on. Well said. Love it. Cool.
So on this trade, we'll focus on this day specifically on VVPR, the bigger breakout day. How were you approaching your risk? Were you looking for wider risk, bigger portion of the move, or were you tightening it up? I'm just curious what your risk levels were on this specific trade.
Yeah, no, for sure. that $9 area was definitely on from yesterday. It definitely had some, what looked to be support at $9. And at that point I was risking low a day though, just from where it opened at. Again, my theory on this one was, this was right after my like biggest red day ever. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to size down and try to capture bigger moves here. And so that's what I did. I sized down on it. And I was like, you know what, I'm okay if this breaks that. Honestly, I really was going to start just watching the price action if it broke that consolidation, broke through that low. But my original risk when I started sizing into it was low a day.
Sweet. Do you focus on buying strengths into these breakouts? Because a lot of your trades are breakout trades. Or are you more of a dip buyer, try to scoop up dips? What's your approach?
I'm definitely not a dip buyer. I'm trying to work on it. I like to buy not necessarily like high of day breaks or like I think the traditional breakouts that a lot of newer traders, because especially when I first started trading, like a breakout was a breakout over like one price level. But I'm trying to work on, again, better trading habits. So if I'm not going to buy on a dip, I'm going to buy out of a really tight trend break so I can keep my risk tight, while still ideally getting a better price. And to me, that's what that first entry was.
Rock on. Great analysis. I think a lot of what you said too, I just picked up on came from like your journaling. Like you're very like just self-aware. You mentioned midday. That changed like a month ago. Midday used to not matter, which was weird. Shit would just run midday. And then you mentioned, you had your biggest red day and then you sized down, try to get back to the basics. That's just super important things that consistently profitable traders do.
Yeah.
And also, Bryce, have you found difficulty between OTCs and NASDAQ? Or are you like solely listed stocks? Do you dabble any try to breakouts on any OTCs? Because people I've heard like OTC breakouts better, but then if, obviously everyone's different. So if do listed breakouts work better for you personally, for your style?
I am so this is, again, this comes back down to the patience that I'm trying to work on. I feel like OTC breakouts, when they work so well, and I need to know how to trade them better. I don't know if hardly any of my profits came from OTCs just because I'm not patient with them. But as I'm working on my patience, I know that I want to expand my edge away from just these listed plays, these listed small caps. So OTCs are probably going to be the next niche, I guess, that I really try to focus in on because I know how easy they are when they work.
I got a question.
Yeah.
He noted that he had his biggest red day the day before this VVPR trade. And I'm just kind of curious what happened to you and what other lessons you took from that besides sizing down and getting back to the basics.
Yeah, no. So I mean, my biggest red day was probably one of the most frustrating and like mentally, emotionally draining days I think I've had. And it's just started off with the trying to dig out of a hole mindset. You know what I mean? Where I'm down and I'm like, all right, well, I know this is going to sound awful, but it's like, well, I'm down. So if I just size up bigger on this play and it works, I'll be good. And I made my way back to almost break even on the day. And I was like, well, if I can make it just a little bit green, I'll be happy. And that's when it was like, all right, I'm trading my P&L. And that's the worst thing you can do. That is the worst thing you can do, is just like trading for the sole purpose of being green. Because before that, I think I had one red day over the course of like almost 2 months. And that's when I kind of realized like, wow, this whole time I've been trading just to be green. So essentially, I think the biggest lesson I learned is like, one, don't trade your P&L. Two, I guess, yeah, like don't let your loss affect how you're trying to take your next trade. Because again, if you're doing that, you're just trading for your P&L.
Okay, I have a question though.
Mm-hmm.
What if you take a loss and then the play gets more ideal? Then, in my opinion, it's okay to size up, even though you are red on the day and you could put yourself in a bigger hole. But when the play gets more ideal, I feel like the system calls for bigger size. And I just feel like if you're sizing up bigger after you do take a big loss on not an ideal setup, then that's where things can really go down the rabbit hole and there's no seeing the green side again.
No, absolutely. There's a huge difference. And my wanting to take bigger size was on no means an ideal setup. I had a similar issue. It was on VVPR on whatever day it was that not this big run day, from a few days before, where that would have been my biggest red day, but this absolutely beautiful setup, like right at VWAP, right over the breakout level, it came around, and that was my biggest trade ever. And it saved my red day. And I did appropriately size up on it because I said, this is an A+ setup for me. This is what I'm looking for. So yeah, there's definitely a difference between taking big size to get green and taking big size on a good setup.
Yeah.
No, I like what you said there. And I think it's a lesson a lot of new traders like just have to learn, because you get, especially when you first start making money after you've been losing so long, then you're like, oh, every day I want to do this. And like, it's just a natural process that I think a lot of people go through, and they don't want to see a red day because, you know, maybe the red day is like, oh, actually, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't make it, but it's just part of the game. If you're a trader, you're going to have losses. You're going to have red days. You just can't let them, blow up your account.
Absolutely. Risk management.
Yeah, you can fight it all you want, but a red day is coming. Like
Exactly.
It will happen. I promise you. So yeah, if you're fighting it, it's good awareness by Bryce to know that, because like, I'd rather take multiple red days, smaller red days throughout my entire career than think I'm on some hot streak of all green days, and then the one red day of all is like doomsday, and I just blow up, right? Like that totally could happen if you just trade your P&L like that for such a long period of time. So very good lesson there. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't have to learn it through blowing up too.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful.
I embrace the small red days, honestly, when things aren't working for me. Like, I'd rather be a little bit small red than a little bit small green, just so I can see, red. I'm red a little bit, and just helps me take the trades better than if I never want to have huge red days, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with a small red day, and I'm okay with them when none of my trades work out. Something unlucky happens. I miss fills. Like, I'm okay with it, and I'm not going to fight back just to get green a little bit. Like, I'll embrace that first red day. And then that won't screw with your mindset of I need to be green every single day, because then when your red day does come, it's going to be 10x what it should be.
So I've got a question for, I guess, whoever wants to answer this, but kind of about that. Like, what do you guys think, especially, for like traders who are just starting to find consistency like me, right? Like, I just walk away. When I know I'm like mentally flustered, I walk away. But you guys like probably have the mental capability to sit through like a tough loss, a tough red day, and say, all right, this is a great setup. For me, I struggle to do that because anything looks like a better setup than what I just took a loss on. And I'm sure there are people in the same shoes as me there.
Yeah, I think I definitely would agree with you that after trading for so long or having so much experience, you definitely can maybe control your emotions better or control your mental state better. Because there's definitely times where I will take a big loss, but I like you said, your second lesson was don't let one loss affect your next trade that's completely separate. And from making that mistake so many times, I now am pretty good at not letting that affect me. So certainly there's certain times where I could maybe take a pretty frustrating loss, but totally just wipe it clean and move on right away from that experience. So in that sense, yes, sometimes I will keep trading. But you're right. I wouldn't say there's never a time where I don't actually walk away. There are times where sometimes it's so bad that I do walk away. And I think that comes down to self-awareness and knowing, your emotional state. Can you control it, or can you get back on track? How the market is, if it's really that bad, like you need to walk away, or if it's just one bad play and there's plenty of other opportunities coming around the corner. It's multiple factors, but I do think a little bit of both. Like I just said, sometimes you can keep going, sometimes you need to walk away, and you got to be self-aware for you personally, which one you learn from, over time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
For me, I would say it's just really about tracking yourself and how you respond to events, because if every single time you take a bigger than expected loss and you're revenge trade and you lose more, like maybe the best thing to do is when something unexpected happens, you just close out and you're done for the day. But let's say that you're okay with that and you're in a bunch of other positions and you're more experienced and there's better setups and you can control your emotions. then it's fine to stay and keep trading. You know what I mean? It all just comes down to you personally and how you will respond.
Definitely.
What Jack just said made me think of something else too, where it's like, if I take one bad loss, like, okay, that's just one event, but and I might keep going if there's better plays, but if for whatever reason, possibly the market environment we're in, and I take like 5, 6, 7 decent sized losses in a row, now it's like, not only am I likely not to handle an 8th or a 9th loss, but then the market in general just isn't even showing my edge. So that would be 100% a good time to just step away. You know, like, not only can I not handle it, but then I also not seeing an edge either. So that's an example where I'd walk away for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I'd add to that. Like, on any given loss, like I was saying, it's just one event. Like, that's planned for usually for me. Like, I'm not going to take the trade if I'm not expecting to lose that amount of money, or like I don't factor that in. So for me, like, one loss, like Kyle said, not a big deal. Even like 2 losses, like, it's in the plan. But once you get more and more losses, like, either like whatever you're doing is not working that day, the market's not hot, your strategy's not working, or on the flip side, say like you factored in $100 loss, you just got like huge slippage and you lose 2 or 3 times what you were expecting to lose, which does happen sometimes. Like, that's definitely when I'll walk away. Like, maybe it's for 5 minutes, maybe it's for an entire day, but just like take a step back, like be like, all right, this just happened. Like, it sucks. Nothing I can do about it. Don't do anything stupid now. And just like, for me, that little time period, whether it's 5 minutes, an hour, just the whole day, is huge, and just like helping me like reset my mindset so then I can get back in the rhythm of things.
For sure.
All right, Matt, we want to move on to your ZM here.
Yeah, we'll talk about Zoom. So Zoom, I mean, we're recording this on Zoom right now, this episode, but it's like a huge company. It's not a penny stock by any means, but something you've probably heard us say like 10 times across the last couple episodes is the penny stock market's super slow right now. And it is, like, it happens, it ebbs and flows. We went through like the hottest period I've ever seen to now we're at a point like it's okay for it to slow down a little bit. Anyways, Zoom, when pennies were slow, actually, like, a lot of tech companies were red hot. Like, you can pull up Tesla, Apple, Zoom's in that category, NVIDIA. They were all just like going straight up, like 100% in the last like month or two, which for a large company is pretty ridiculous. And Zoom, specifically, my play here was they crushed earnings and then it pulled back with the overall market despite the earnings. Call it overvalued. I don't really care. Like, it's the same way I trade penny stocks. I don't really care what the company is. I don't really care what it does. I don't really care what Zoom was. I was just trading the technical pattern here. They had good earnings. I pulled back for 4 days. And then yesterday, after the pullback, started basing a little bit and the market pulled back 2 days. So I was thinking we were going to play a first green day, which is a pattern I play all the time on penny stocks. And the theory is just same thing with first red day. Stuff can't go up forever and stuff can't go down forever. Like, there's going to be a bounce, at least at some point in time. So Zoom, it helped out that it was a real company and the bounce day was coming. So I actually played some options on this one, which is, you know, not only was I playing a large cap, I was playing some options. But like, I didn't want to buy several hundred shares and tie up like all my account's buying power. So we talk about Mark Crick a lot. We learned from him. I was like, yo, like, he's doing options. Like, I think I can do some options here. So I bought some into the end of the day as we were fading a little bit here because I was thinking, like, compared to the last couple of days, you know, we've pulled back a lot. There's still good earnings. I think we're going to have a bounce day tomorrow. So I bought specifically $375 was the strike price for an expiration of this Friday, 9/11. And I bought them, and, you know, whether it's luck or just preparedness or like, I mean, there's a little bit of luck here. We got an awesome gap up in the markets, and basically immediately I was up over 100% of my position on those call options, and I locked in like 3,500 basically overnight on those positions. Zoom continued to run. I think my average on those options was like $7, and I sold at like, you know, between $11 or so. And after that big run up you see until 11, the options were like at $24. So options are an entirely different world. They're crazy. I'm still probably going to be experimenting with them going forward just because there is a ton of opportunity there. But they are risky. They are super volatile. you think penny stocks are volatile, I guarantee you options are like 10 times more volatile than penny stocks. And a lot of it comes down to timing. So like if your timing's off, like you're going to be wrong in the trade. And full disclaimer out there, I think there's like a stat too that like, you know, everyone knows the stat, 90% of traders fail. Well, I think 90% of people who buy options, or 90% of any options out there that are bought expire worthless. So if you're buying an option, there's a 90% chance that that option will be worthless at the time of expiry. So like that's where the high risk, high reward comes from. Super cool play on Zoom. It was really nice to see just like a penny stock pattern work on a large company. So that was my play.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All I got.
Nice trade there, Monaco.
What was that?
What's up, dude?
Nice trade there, Monaco.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm hoping to get some more in there. I mean, like this one was like a pretty rare one. I only want to use options like very unique situations. Like to me, this one was like, I don't want to say no brainer, but like it was just such a clear pattern to me that I felt like it was okay to try some options versus just like on a daily basis buying Tesla calls or whatever it is. So,
Yeah, special scenario for it. Calls for special measures.
Boom. Precisely.
Right on. I guess I will go over my small loss on BASA today. This month so far has been quite uneventful for me. You know, I could argue I could have taken the first 2 weeks off and not really miss out on much. My P&L is quite low. If it continues the way it's continuing, you know, I probably will have the lowest profitable month of the year. But again, I could pull an LCDX like last month. Who knows? You know, I have no idea what opportunities will show up. But I am excited for BASA. BASA could be a potential big winner for me. So again, just multiple green days in a row. And if you look here on what was it? I guess Tuesday into Wednesday, or Friday into Tuesday. Yesterday, Tuesday's action, it gapped down just a slight little bit, opened up at like 62 cents, and the previous close was, I believe, like 63. And then we actually squeezed out and then went higher. And so I had thought that would be a similar case because we were gapping down a bit. And so I didn't want to short right out the open. But right out the open, there was like a big seller. He wasn't showing a lot of size, but at 80.5 cents, he was soaking a lot of size. So he was only showing like 1,000 shares, but I mean, easily over 20, 30K shares were hitting him and he wasn't lifting. And so I said, okay, like I'll short a starter. And ironically, right as I short the starter, he breaks, he lifts. Someone buys enough of his shares, he lets go, and we squeeze. So I quickly cut it around like 85, lost like $300, which was the best decision I could have ever made because then it's parabolic all the way up from 85 to 110. I did actually try to short this at 111, and I just missed my fill. Ended up missing this downside, so I am negative $300 on this particular ticker. But like you said, like I said earlier, looking at the daily chart, we are still up, well over 100% now. The red-green move is obviously not meaningful considering it's done that 2 days now and perked. So I'm gonna have to look for something different. I'm gonna have to look for a gap up and then it goes red after the gap up or a failed morning spike. I might have to look for a gap down and have it fail to go back green and then go back red, or then go maybe a new low a day for it to fail and me get it short. But essentially, I have to kind of now change the way I potentially enter this trade because the red green level isn't meaningful. But again, this is like still a very nice, solid OTC runner. So when it does have a search for first red day, we're probably going to see 10 to 20% downside. So if I do get filled and I can get size I want, this should be probably hopefully a better win on the month so far. So kind of a trade that I took today and a play to look forward into the future for me.
Well said.
I like that.
So here we got JC Penney, and this is a bankrupt company. And a lot of times you see that these companies will run, and when they run, it usually brings in good volume and multiple 100% moves. As you can see there in June, it had a nice run from 20 to 60 cents. I'm pretty sure, Kyle.
Yep.
And then today it was popping back up on some news. Not really familiar with the news. Michael Good, one of the moderators in Tim Sykes' chat room, was talking about it, saying how it was good news, and he is pretty knowledgeable about bankruptcy. So I did trust him on his read on the news. And I got interested in this around 2 to 3 o'clock. And around 2 to 3 o'clock, I tried playing it in the 27s and the 28s. And especially where Kyle's mouse is right there, I was long some, as it looked like it was kind of breaking high day. And it just was a huge stuff, and it dipped. And I was just kind of not really in the mood to trade today because it just seems like I'm missing fills left and right. There's no real ideal setups. And I just ended up selling the trade for like $70. And I walked away for a little bit. And then I come back and it's up in the 33, 34 area. So unfortunately for me, I just didn't have my mind in it to continue to watch and trade it. And I ended up missing out on some decent profits there, but that's all right. And what I try to do when I do miss out on a long setup is I'm going to get excited for the short now. We are up 108%. It closed right at the high day. It's basically parabolic from 30 to 40. So definitely a play to keep on watch for tomorrow and maybe even Friday. A bunch of different scenarios could happen. It could gap down and have a panic and just stay dead for the day. It could gap down and panic and come back through that 40 level since it's been straight up since 30. Or it could just gap up and go parabolic, which I think would be the most ideal scenario for me. I think if we gap up 45, start pushing into the 50s, that's where I'm going to want to get short for a 10 to 15 cent pull and kind of see how that green to red level does. But we do have resistance in the 50s and the 60s from the previous run, and it is straight up from 30. So that's why I would be interested in a parabolic short. If it does have a red move, I would probably will scalp it short a little bit, maybe just for 10 to 15%. I don't want to get too overly aggressive on it, and I don't really want to buy the dip on this because it's not a multi-day runner. Even though the news is good, this could just fade off all day or it could come back. It's kind of more like a gamble in my opinion. So that would be my plan moving forward on JCPenney.
I like it. I agree the same way. I was just, as Jack was explaining that the potential scenarios that could play out, I immediately thought of for me, there are two short scenarios and there's two long scenarios. The two long scenarios being that it is overextended, but if it, say, did a small gap up and held red-green convincingly, right, if there was a lot of buyers that weren't letting it go red and then selling ran out in the morning, you know, and then enough people think this news is very legitimate, like it could easily go, right, it could easily run to 45, 50, 60. So it would be a little more risky because it is more of a higher price chase, I guess, not higher price, but just I'm buying it pretty high in the run-up. But again, if it proves itself to hold green, and the volume is big and this volume continues, that's certainly an option. The second long would be if it panics really good, right? This is very good volume. It's known to panic in the past. Like if you've ever watched these runs, if you've been around for these previous run-ups on JCPenney, the previous runs have been very smooth, very nice panics and dips. So this one was a good dip buy in as well back in September last year. This was a pretty good dip buy day. So that's the second scenario for long. For shorting, you're right. If it wants to parabolic even harder, like Jack said, into this resistance of like 50, 60 level, almost like I've talked about this before, like an opposite dip buy pattern bounce to the upside, that could be a good short position play. Or if it's just very weak and the news doesn't mean much, it could go red. And if it goes red, you might want to try shorting that too. So this is, ultimately it comes down to just how you react, and really every scenario has a reaction. So I'm kind of like, I'm predicting what might happen, but I'm going to react to what does happen. I guess that if I want to explain it that way. So main play for me tomorrow on watch.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. It's basically exactly what I'm looking for. Sweet.
I'm way more short bias on it just because I missed the long today. So I kind of am stocking it for the short, but if Kyle says about the long plays, maybe I'll consider it with smaller size and just kind of react to it. But the main plays where I would take bigger risk would be on the short side. Ideally, my favorite play would be the gap up and parabolic, because then I would have the most range, I think.
Yeah. And one thing too, why even though it has good news, but we're still short bias, is because at the end of the day, Michael Good even mentioned this in the chat room, is that this company's still bankrupt. Like JCPenney's been a great company for a very long time, but their environment changes, marketplaces change, and they're on clearly the downfall. So once the bankruptcy is over, the majority of almost all bankruptcies lead to zero value for the share or for the retail shareholders. So this can go high as it wants on whatever news this is, but long term, it's still not a smart investment per se. Very low odds they come out on top, especially through this bankruptcy. So like I said, like any other penny stock we trade, we just have a very cynical approach forward, because that's just unfortunately how 90 to 95% of these plays end up. So sounds bad, but it's just the reality of our situation. So
rock on. Let's close her out. Any question for Bryce? Both of you boys.
I have a question for
Bryce. So going forward, Bryce, to the end of this year, I mean, you've been around long enough to know, you've probably experienced summer trading before, and certainly this month is, probably the strongest summer trading I've seen since literally last August and September. How are you personally handling it, and has been seeing it in years prior helped you adapt to it now?
Yeah, I think like the biggest adjustment I'm going to make is just making sure that I'm only taking appropriate size when the appropriate setup presents itself. Especially because, again, like my strongest plays are normally like $1 to $5 listed stocks, and I haven't seen a lot of those running this month, which is fine. But that just means I shouldn't be, one, attacking anything I see that's running in that area. I shouldn't be attacking with full size unless it's a great setup, unless it's a multi-day runner. And two, I shouldn't be attacking unfamiliar setups with a lot of size either. I think this is a great time. Like I said, large caps, they've been on fire. Tech stocks have just been really hot, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean I quite know how to play them. So using small size, learning how to play these a little bit better. Just trying to really expand my tool belt. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but just really trying to get a better grip on different setups.
Right on. Love it. Cool.
Jack, you got one?
My question for Bryce was kind of similar to Kyle, but I just kind of wanted to know your steps moving forward besides the sizing down into these summer months and these slower months. What else are you trying to work on moving forward besides also expanding on your tool belt? Just kind of anything you haven't really touched on?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I really want to learn how to short better. And I think being long for so long, no pun intended, was a good way to kind of see when not to long things. I'm trying to, just learn different patterns to really increase my shorting ability, I guess, just because I know that, one, I like it a lot more. It's so much more fun. I don't know why. I feel a lot more comfortable with risk levels. I normally just found myself oversizing on with bad entries. So I feel like if I can take better entries and just really identify patterns, that I will eventually join the dark side more than 50-50. So that's one of my next biggest steps, I think.
I like it. Let's go.
Long sides were. Yeah, this is my long shirt.
Oh God, we gotta make a new twist episode without Monaco and just shorts.
Yeah. Matt, can you please join the short side?
Like a after dark edition or something. Like
after dark edition, the nightly news.
That'd be funny. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Specifically, Bryce, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you. We are gonna StocksToTrade in general is gonna have some more Bryce content coming up. He's been doing treats, which is audio only, but we're kind of switching him over. So if you follow StocksToTrade on Instagram, Bryce you should see his face there a lot more often. He's gonna come out with some Instagram exclusive content. Should be really funny. Fits Bryce's personality. Just thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This is a blast. It was good seeing you guys as always.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun today.
Rock on. Cheers, everyone.
Later,
Cheers.
guys.